So hopefully I'm going to be able to kill two birds with one stone here and show you guys a little bit how to use this Cami add-on that I've asked you to download and show you how to graph a linear function. So last week we spent 3 days evaluating functions, and if you paid attention to the assignment names, we did a linear function on Monday, we did quadratic functions on Tuesday, we did exponential functions on Wednesday, and then Thursday was that spreadsheet recap. We're going to go back and graph these in kind of the same manner. We're going to do linear, then quadratic, then exponential. Now, it's very similar from one to the next, but the graphs, the pictures that we're actually going to get are going to be very different. So the nice thing about these is if you can evaluate the functions correctly, the graphing is almost just secondary. You're still going to get plenty of practice evaluating these things and then plotting the points. So the different types of functions all kind of have their unique picture. So today, everything you graph is going to be a line. That's why they're called linear functions. Tomorrow, everything you graph is going to be a quadratic function. We'll talk more about their shapes later. And then again on Wednesday, all the exponentials, they kind of have their own look as well. So what we're going to do, the problems on your homework look just like this. There's your function, there's a table to record your values, and then there's a graph out to the right. Excuse me. So evaluating these is not the primary focus today. You should be able to evaluate these. If you don't remember how or you need help, go back and watch the video from last Monday. It's still on my classroom page under old materials. So I'm going to go through and evaluate these. If you can do them in your head, great. So I'm going to choose the text box tool, and you might need to play around with your font size. Get it so it's legible and it's easy to read. And you can change the colors. You know, I guess I just like black when I type. So I'm going to take these. I'm going to evaluate -2 times -1 plus 5. This guy is 7. And if you notice, when I clicked, the text box actually popped up above where I had clicked. That's kind of weird. You might need to play around, but you can always drag your text box to where you need it. I tried doing this all in one text box, and it didn't space them out enough so that it actually wound up where I needed it, but it's not really that big of a deal to have to drag your answers. Okay. And then the last one, -1. Okay, so I've got all of my function evaluated at 5 different points. So now I'm going to actually graph these. So what I've done here, the way the table's set up, I'm basically asking you to graph an XY pair, an ordered pair for the coordinate plane. So our X values are right here, and the F of X values we're going to use as our Y values. So this is basically an ordered pair, -1, 7. And then 0, 5, 1, 3, and so on and so on. So I switched to the drawing tool down here. It's the one that looks like the little paintbrush. You can select the size of your brush. 4 seems to work pretty good for the graphs. If you go smaller, it might be kind of wonky. You can choose your color. I like purple. So -1, 7, I'm going to find -1, 7 on my graph, and click. There's my point. That's all there is to it. You don't have to try and scribble with your cursor like we were having to do in Jamboard if you've ever used Jamboard. 0, 5 here, 1, 3 there. It's literally point and click, guys. 3, -1. Okay, so I've got all of my points plotted, and if you notice, they line up nice and neat. This is kind of an easy way to self-check yourself. If you graph one of these points and it doesn't line up with the rest of them, either you graphed it wrong or maybe you made a mistake in your calculations. So go back and check those. So now that I've plotted all of my points here, I'm going to go to the Shapes tool, which is right below the brush, and I've got all of these options here. I'm going to go down to the Insert Line. And again, you can pick a different color. I'm going to do black for my line. Normally, if we were in class, I would give you guys a ruler and have you draw a line completely through the entire graph because these lines go on forever. We just have a little snapshot of some values, but these lines are infinitely long. There's an infinite set of numbers I can plug in. I get an infinite set of numbers out. So the way I'm going to represent that when I graph, I'm going to go through all of my points and I'm going to continue my line on through the rest of the graph. Okay, I'm going to make sure that all of these points are lined up and I've got the line going through it, but then I'm going to keep going. So what that tells me is that all of these other points out here, say 4, -3, 5, -7, all of these additional points down here that I just drew, those are also on the line, but I don't have them in my table of values. Okay, going on to the next one. Again, a real nice straightforward function. It's just 2 times whatever the x is. So this guy's -6. -4. 0, 2, and 8. Again, so I just used my text box tool, and I kind of had to play around with the position to get it where I wanted it. And you can switch the color if you want. Just make it easy to read. Don't pick like the, bright lime green or something. So I'm going to go back and graph these points again. This is my x. This is my y. So these are my ordered pairs, the numbers that would be in the parentheses. So -3, -6 here, -2, -4 there, 0, 0, 1, 2, and 4, 8. Okay, now there are points in here in between these two that aren't graphed, but when I draw my line, I'll include those. So again, I'm going to insert a line. I'm going to start at one point and go all the way through the others and as much as I can of the graph. I tried extending this line, and I just didn't like the way it looked. Just do your best to fill up the whole graph. All right, last one I wanted to throw in here because it has a fraction. When we get into our actually writing the equations of these lines, which is a little bit later in the year and the semester, you're going to get used to seeing these fractions. So I thought I'd throw this one in here. Again, that's just a multiplier. That's not changing anything. So I'm going to take 1/2 times -4. That's -2 plus 3 would be 1. Okay. Again, just go through and work these out. 2, 3, 5, and then 7. All right, drawing tool, pick a color, -4, 1 here, -2, 2 there, 0, 3 there, 4, 5 is up here, and 8, 7 right there. Again, I've got some empty spaces here, but when I go back and actually get my line tool, they all line up nice and neat.